A couple of years back, I made a series about the starting classes in Elden Ring. The idea was to optimize each class as much as possible while preserving the spirit of the starting characters by sticking to the same weapon categories and armor type. It was a really fun series, as it forced me to think of and use stuff I would usually ignore when jumping into a build. So I figured it's about time I do it in Dark Souls 3. We start with the humble knight, and from me this is an uncharacteristically sensible DS3 run, where we just grab a really good weapon and we don't have to do anything horrendous to get it. So if you're new to DS3, this is a safe and incredibly strong build. I couldn't resist injecting a tiny little bit of silliness into this run, but it's not anything that will give you a headache. More on that later. So make your way round to the lizard in the starting area and kill it for a Titanite scale. Then into Gundyr. So for the Knight class, we have 3 things to work with: a straight sword, a medium shield, and some heavy armor. There's 3 parts to this build and they follow that order. First we're going to grab the best straight sword in the game, then we're going to grab 2 medium shields that give us powerful buffs. And finally, as we approach the late game, we're going to get a set of heavy armor that will allow us to negate a whole lot of damage. Parries are okay on medium shields in Dark Souls 3, but I will show you an easier option on proper Gundyr later on. Run into Firelink, buy a dagger at the shop, then run up the right stairs and outside to do the tree jump for an extra flask upgrade and the Silver Serpent ring. There's only 3 important things we need to grab in the high wall: the gold pine resin at the start of the area, then the Titanite shard by the second bonfire on top of the building with the Lothric Knight, then finally the black fire bombs on the ledge before you drop down to the winged knight. You need to keep at least one of these until Pontiff later in the run. Now into Vort. The straight sword is the perfect weapon for this fight, so slap the gold pine resin on it, get under him and spam away. In phase 2, dodge the 3 headbutts by rolling right as the head dips, then smash him in the face with a chargy for a stun and the win. In the Undead Settlement, there's a couple of things to grab. First the Estus shard by the bonfire in the centre, then into the building for the charcoal pine resin. When exiting this building, follow this route for some more upgrade materials and the sharp gem, which we're going to use to give our main weapon S scaling later on. After this, run through the graveyard and jump onto the platform for our first undead bone shard. Grab the Mortician's ashes nearby, then pass Treeball's arena to open up the shortcut and light the cliff underside bonfire. Now into the boss, who's the only one we have to kill to get our build up and running. Buff with the charcoal pine resin as he wakes up, then spam R1 to bust the balls. Then go for the left heel. When he falls down to start phase 2, go left for the one on the thigh, then run to the right for the hand, before running round to the back. Then a couple of safe hits on the front hand is all it takes. So the reason we killed Tree Balls is the Hollow Slayer Greatsword. Obviously off limits to me on this run because it's a greatsword, but if you're making this build, using this for the farm we're about to do will be far easier. Head back to the tower on the wall bonfire and run down the stairs to start farming the Lothric Knight. If you have the Hollow Slayer Greatsword at +1 with the scale from the tutorial lizard, you can one-shot the axe guy and stun-lock the knight with R1s. With the straight sword, I had to be way more careful, so your farming will be much more optimal. When the Lothric Knight Greatsword drops, run through the high wall until you get to this section with the Pus of Man on the rooftop. Down into the room under this and turn left to grab the Undead Hunter Charm. Now back to the tower on the wall, and for some reason I decided to fight the Lothric Knight we'd just been farming. No fucking way. 2 in a row. So the silliness that I decided to add to the run was farming the Symbol of Avarice at the start to give this character way more souls throughout the rest of the game. Now this mimic does not respawn, so if you want to do this legit, you could keep making characters and running through the tutorial until you get the drop. But I just made a save file so I could do it quickly. Throw an Undead Charm at the mimic to open it safely. Then you can repeat this one more time, then kill the mimic for 3 possible chances for it to drop per reload. It's a relatively high drop rate, so this shouldn't take long. Mine dropped on the 3rd load. Head back to Firelink to level up the Lothric Knight sword. Then back to the cliff underside bonfire to start making our way into Farron. Once you get to the Road of Sacrifices bonfire, light it and double back to head up the lift to see Onion Man, then drop down past the demon and onto the top of the next building to jump off onto the tower and drop down for the Chloranthy ring. Back to the Road of Sacrifices and start running through, doubling back over this bridge on the left for a Titanite shard. Then onto the Halfway Fortress to follow this route for some more Tities, the Crucifixion Woods bonfire, and our first medium shield, the Grass Crest Shield. Run past the NPCs and cheese them off the ladder for some more cash. I haven't shown my route through Farron in a while, so here's what I do on every standard run. First, head to the tower on your left, grabbing the Estus shards and Titanites along the way. There is a couple of extra Tities around this area, but we don't need them for this run. Then back the way you came, equipping the dagger to scooch through the swamp to the tower on the right of where you enter. Behind the fire, you can drop down, preferably when this enemy is walking away from you, to grab some more Tities and an undead bone shard. Then up the ramp to light a bonfire, throw alluring skulls just here, then run to light the final tower. When all 3 towers are lit, down through the gate and up to the Farron Keep perimeter. We're here for the Farron Coal, which is at the end of this corridor past the Black Knight, so run through to grab it. With the coal secured, back to Firelink to reinforce our Lothric Knight sword with the sharp infusion. We're going to be using a whole lot of grease on this run, so whenever you have any spare cash, head back to Firelink to buy them. Back to Farron Keep, down the ramp and to the right to start climbing the ladder to the Old Wolf of Farron bonfire. Run round to the right and through the hidden wall for the Dream Chaser's ashes. Then up the elevator to the bridge for our next fight. Run up to the demon and circle him to the right, attacking his left leg as you roll through the attacks. Quite quickly with this weapon, you can break the legs and then riposte lock him to death. The reason we're killing him is an early game 20k boost from the soul he drops. Now onto the other side of the bridge for 2 large Titanite shards dropped by these 2 crystal lizards. Now back to the Crucifixion Woods and into the Crystal Sage. The reason straight swords are so powerful in DS3 is a combination of extremely fast one-handed combos and the very small stamina consumption, meaning you can happily spam away and evaporate health bars. As Sage dies, quickly equip the Symbol of Avarice for 50% more souls. Continue on from Sage towards the Cathedral, lighting the Cleansing Chapel bonfire when you get there. Head through the Cathedral to unlock the shortcut, then back down the lift to grab Lloyd's sword ring from the corpse next to the giant. Quickly switch on the dagger in a manner consistent with quite a decent Dark Souls 3 player. Then drop down and get one shot. Run back through the cathedral for deacons, who you can absolutely bully with this thing. Now back to the Farron Keep perimeter for Abyss Watchers. For a safe Phase 1, run to the opposite end of the arena and stay inside this little rectangular area to prevent other Watchers from spawning. For both phases, You can either go for safe backstab strats, or take the YOLO approach and just spam R1. You can stun the Watchers enough to get off a few attacks, and take quite substantial chunks off their health bars. To grab the next item for our build, down into the catacombs of Carthus, breaking the bridge to access the smouldering lake. On your way, start a fight for some extra runes. If you don't enjoy doing this on every DS3 run, it's probably because you haven't done it yet. Basically, the Mimic and the Demon will fight each other, and 9 out of 10 times, the Mimic stomps the Demon and leaves him with a single hit of health for you to clean up. But on this run, it was a rare win for the Demon. In the Smouldering Lake, there's a few bits to grab. First off, run round dodging the arrows to collect all of the large Titanites we need for upgrades. We've got enough health, armour and heals to tank quite a few hits here, so don't panic. In a cave to the right of where you enter, you can chase a crystal lizard for a Titanite chunk. Then start making your way towards the grossly incandescent worm. The item we're here for is right next to it. The Shield of Want is another soul boosting item, giving us an additional 20% more souls when equipped. Don't worry, you don't need the requirements for it. This combined with the symbol of avarice and the Silver Serpent Ring means that bosses will drop an additional 98% more souls. So we're going to be getting way more levels than usual on this run. Now to make some progress through the game. Up to the door from Kingsfield, and through it to touch the goblet and grab the item in front of you in the dark room. Then into Irithyll to say hi to Sully's dog. This enemy drops the most important ring for this playthrough, which you want to equip immediately. Two-handed charge into an R1 for the stagger, equip the symbol of avarice, then wait until he's still to finish the job. Run through the first part of Irithyll, lighting the Church of Yorshka bonfire, then heading to the right on the other side of it to run around and grab another undead bone shard. Down through the cellar and out through the lake to light the distant manor bonfire and start heading into Irithyll dungeon. At this point in the run, we're only running through to open up the profane capital for later, but a quick note on this room with all the jailers. If you head down the left side through this corridor, you can grab the Xanthus ashes. I didn't need this until later on in the run, but if you're low on gold pine resin, This is the ash you need in order to buy it. So now let's get our weapon to +7. Back to Firelink and up to the top of the building to trade that black firebomb we grabbed in the starting area with Snuggly for a Titanite chunk. This is the only way to get a +7 without early Dancer or early DLC. For Pontiff, equip the Grass Crest Shield for maximum spam ability in Phase 1, thanks to the stamina regen it gives. If you get stuck in and be super greedy, he won't have much health left at all for Phase 2, and you can kill him in a single combo. Or risk the entire fight waiting for a parry because you're an absolute child. Head back to Firelink to stock up on embers and resins. I didn't want to fight Slug Boy yet, so I went back to Vort's arena and up the stairs for Dancer. Dancer is weak to dark, so buff with some human pine resin, stay glued to the left leg and spam away. The Lothric Nightsword performs very similarly to Dark Souls 3's notorious Sellsword Twin Blades in a lot of fights, in that you look at the single hit output and think, this could be rough. Then when you get a decent attack opportunity, you go, holy fuck, look at that health bar disappearing. Run through the first part of Lothric Castle, doing a supermarket sweep of all the Titanite chunks laying around. This area contains the 10 chunks we need for a +9, so grab the 3 on the way to the dragons, then light the bonfire before the bridge. From this bonfire, run up the corpse to avoid aggroing the dragons and grab the chunks down here. Then into the Ganky Building of Death to start clearing it out. Out on the top balcony, away from the Dragon's Foot, we can get another chunk. Then clear out the enemies around the Dragon's Foot and throw firebombs at the Pus of Man for another 2. Through the rest of the area to Dragon Slayer armor. Open up the shortcut, then onto the roof above it for the final chunk we need. With our weapon at +9, back to the Dancer's arena and left up the ladder into the Consume King's garden for Osiris. Same strats as always for this one. Get underneath or behind him and spam away. There's some pretty big openings in this fight, so switching over to the Grass Crest Shield is a good shout. You still have plenty of time to switch back to the Shield of Want and the Symbol. Souls take a while to drop in this game. Alternatively, you can do what I did, and throughout the run invest in some Green Blossom alongside your resins so you don't have to worry about after fight switching. Run through the untended graves to champion. Now if you're still getting used to parrying in this game, there is a better option if you're struggling with the medium shield. The default unarmed animation in DS3 is basically a buckler parry, so switch off your weapon for the parry, then back on for the riposte. Sorry to the regulars who are hearing this for the 100th time, but I'm still really salty that we didn't get this in Elden Ring. In the next area, we need two things. Run right at the top of the stairs to grab the Hornet Ring to boost our ripostes for backstabbable enemies. Then into Dark Fire Link for the coiled sword. Back at the round table, we can take this up to Snuggly and trade it for a Titanite slab. After you have the slab, you have two choices. Either jump down to Andre and plus 10 your weapon, or if you have the attention span of a gnat, you can immediately forget about it and do the next 5 bosses with a plus 9. You'll never guess which one of those I head over to Ludlith and trade Gundir's soul for the prisoner's chain. Then back to Lothric Castle for Dragonslayer armour. And I absolutely adore this fight with a fast weapon because of how outrageously aggressive you can be while still getting away with it. After putting it off for as long as possible, it's now time to bite the bullet and head up to Anor Londo for Slug Boy. Give yourself an All Trophies PTSD flashback on the stairs, then into the cathedral for the undisputed winner of the shittiest boss in a prestigious location award. Now we're back to the good stuff, and heading into Irithyll Dungeon to make our way to Archdragon Peak. Run through Wyvern's Arena to get the stab, and head back to Firelink to start piecing together the final part of our build, the fashion. So the goal here is to eventually end up in Champion Gundir's set, but we don't quite have the stamina to mid-roll in all of it yet. So for the next few bosses, it's going to be a bit of a fashion disaster. Something DS3 was inexplicably bad at, considering that Bloodborne and Elden Ring both smashed it, is the proportions of certain armour sets. For example, the Black Knight helm here looking like a plastic Halloween mask compared to our beefy champion chest piece. The worst offender, in my opinion, is the Black Knight chest piece. Seriously, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go put on the Black Knight set and realise that it gives you such ridiculously chunky thighs that it looks like your character's legs need to be 3 foot longer for it to look right. I may or may not have played these games too much. Run through to the Great Belfry and light the bonfire. Then out into the next area to grab the Dragon Chaser's ashes. Now to fight the famous Elden Ring Night Rain boss, the Nameless King. Honestly, this fight is a joke with this build. In phase 1, you want to buff with lightning because the King of Storm is weak to it. Stay on the head and you'll get a stagger pretty quickly to end the fight. At the start of phase 2, you want to buff with anything other than lightning. Dark would have been better, but he was doing the quick attack, so I went for fire because it was closest. Genuinely, in phase 2, if you just wait until the end of the combos then spam, this is one of the easiest fights on the run. When he gets to phase 2, the fight is basically over. Even if you make a complete dog's dinner of the lightning dodge like I did. After Nameless, we finally have the endurance and the cash to finish off our fashion and complete our build with Gundir's helm. Champion's armour is very good, but it is one of the heaviest sets in the game, and there are many ways to get more defense for less weight. But the reason I chose it for this night build though, is that it fucking looks cool. For the final touch on the build, realise that you forgot to level your sword up and take it to +10. Back to Lothric Castle then, to finally see the build we've been working towards. We have an S-scaling weapon that we can buff with whatever resin the boss is weak to. We have 2 shields, one for stamina regen and one for extra souls that we can switch between when necessary. We have an armour set that can take a massive amount of punishment, and from here on in, our strats can be summarised by one word: greed. So be as aggressive as possible. Get stuck in on every boss to see health bars disappear. If you're not sure if you can get away with one more swing, go for it anyway, and let our immense fashion do its thing. Now into Ariandel, and our build's finished, so there's nothing to grab here. Just run through the whole map, open up the shortcut, and head into Frida. In most of my Dark Souls 3 builds, which almost always include a weapon as big as a transit van, I do backstab strats for Frida, keeping my distance and ignoring everything but the easily punishable jumps and teleport attack. But with the Lothric Knight Sword, you can just get stuck in if you want to. Fighting Frida aggressively is always going to be harder than being passive, but with a straight sword, it is very doable. Delete Ariandel in Phase 2, then depending on how your heals are getting on, decide between passivity or aggression in Phase 3. One swing after a riposte is always safe, 2 swings is mostly safe, and 3 is sketchy. Now into the Ringed City for the final leg of the run. In the first area, you can head through this building to grab the upgraded version of the Serpent Ring for even more souls. And later in the second Angel section, you can also grab the Ring of Favour +3 for even more health and stamina. As someone who usually runs around this game butt naked, I felt basically unkillable on this build, and didn't even think of it. But it's a serious upgrade to an already broken setup. For the demons, we're going to use Carthus Rouge, as they're weak to bleed. As usual, we want to kill the orange one first, but by beelining him at the start, we do enough DPS to have him one hit away from death before the red one aggroes. At the phase transition, rebuff with Carthus and spam away on the body to start building bleed. If you're just coming back to DS3 after playing Elden Ring, bear in mind that the correct timing for dodging ground attacks is about half a second later than you think it is. Nameless King's Stomp and the Demon Princes catch me out every single time I come back to DS3. Run all the way through the Ringed City until you get to Midir, who we need to whack off the cliff to activate the fight. Bait the breath attack and attack the head for a very easy time. Then through the next area to unlock the shortcut and head down to him. In last year's series of Dark Souls 3 build guides, a first try hitless Midir fight eluded me constantly. When I was filming for the 15 tips video, I got my first try hitless Midir, and couldn't show it to anyone because that was for a video that only needed 30 seconds of Midir. So in this series, I will get my first try hitless Midir. I didn't get it on this run, but hopefully this scrappy fight gives you an idea of how much damage reduction we have with this armour. A hit from Midir can be 2 or 3 heals on a standard run, but with the champion set, I was getting it back in 1. I gotta be honest for a second here. The last 2 times I've come back to DS3 after a long break, I've had exactly the same feeling watching this cutscene and doing this walk. In every Dark Souls 3 run I've ever done, I spend the entire game childishly excited to fight Frida, demons, Midir and Gale, with whatever new build I've been cooking up. The same is true for the old hunters and for base Elden Ring's late game. But what I've felt at this moment on both of my returns to DS3 over the past 18 months is just a crushing disappointment that I don't feel the same way about Shadow of the Erdtree. I've never really been able to put my finger on why. The bosses in Shadow of the Erdtree are way more complex, but I've also put more practice into fighting them and know their movesets so much better than the bosses from the other games. All of the fights you've seen on this run, including this one, are so much more scrappy than any of my Shadow of the Erdtree fights. But I adore these DLCs, and I love their bosses in a way that not a single boss in Shadow of the Erdtree comes close to. Rather than seeing that as evidence of Shadow of the Erdtree's shortcomings though, I prefer to see it as testament to how much they fucking nailed the final goodbye to Dark Souls. And thank you for joining me on another adventure through it again. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more Souls adventures. As always, thanks for watching. See you soon.